Received a blood plasma transfusion from his teenage son in a bid to turn back the clock.
I never imagined in my entire life this kind of relationship with my child.
I should probably clarify up front that, a lot of people think that he's kept in a dungeon that's 10 by 10. It's actually 8 by 8. So yes, I received a liter of plasma from my son. He's 7.
You're probably wondering who this unusual family is and why they're sharing blood with each other. Are they vampires or are they just crazy rich people? The man in the video is Brian Johnson, and although he may not look it, he's a 46-year-old millionaire. He's dedicated his life to slowing his aging through a multitude of ways.
So what even is young plasma? Well, it's a term referring to the plasma portion of the blood from young organisms that could have factors with rejuvenating effects on aging cells or tissue. One such factor is called apelin, and it's a hormone that promotes protein synthesis. Vinolate Al found its levels to be decreased in old plasma, and using mice models and muscle atrophy as a biomarker of aging, found apelin deficiency, the right group, compared to controls, the left group, to cause a decrease in lean muscle mass, mitochondrial number and DNA content, and muscular strength. These results show that apelin deficiency is linked to age-related muscle atrophy and weakening. However, a caveat is that apelin has yet to be proven as a rejuvenating factor through any controlled experiments, only that its removal causes age-related decline. In another study by Tripathi et al., old and young Wistar rats were injected with plasma using reactive oxygen species as another biomarker of aging, and we can see that old rats have higher levels of ROS, the OC bar, and injection of young plasma, the OIP bar, causes a decrease in ROS generation. Also, the researchers found that resting levels of FRAP, which is a measure of antioxidant ability of blood plasma, was lower in older mice, the OC bar, and injection of young plasma, the OIP bar, caused an increase in FRAP. And so overall, this study shows that young plasma can ameliorate age-related reactive oxygen levels and improve antioxidant defenses. But a caveat is that this was only investigated in red blood cells. Young plasma is still very new, and its beneficial effects have just started to show in rat and mice models. There are also many myths about young plasma therapy.
One myth is that young plasma transfusion can cause you to age in reverse. This is completely untrue. There's no therapy out there that can make people biologically younger. However, a study conducted on mice published by the Journals of Gerontology demonstrated that the mice who underwent the young plasma treatment maintained the physical appearance of younger mice even while continuing to age. From this image, we can see that the control group is noticeably older. They also measured the DNA methylation patterns within the genome as the determinant of age and found that these treated groups were aging over 15% slower.
Let's move on to myth number 2. Can young plasma therapy help with Alzheimer's disease? Well, unfortunately, probably not. A lot of clinical trials have tested this idea, and in a paper called Efficacy and Safety of Blood Derivatives Therapy in Alzheimer's Disease, researchers rigorously selected the best clinical trials of young plasma therapy in Alzheimer's disease patients. Through a variety of cognitive tests, there was no improvement during the trial, and when it ended, both the placebo and treatment groups had the same results in those tests. To make sure and maybe find specific groups for which this would actually help, many more large-scale human trials have to be conducted. But bear in mind that these treatments are very invasive, and even if adverse effects can seem relatively mild, the patients being elderly, these can be really detrimental to their health.
Myth number 3. Parabiosis is the future of young plasma therapy. The term parabiosis refers to a surgical procedure where the circulatory systems of a young mouse and an old mouse are combined, leading to the blood and plasma exchange between the two organisms. So realistically, no, parabiosis is not the future of young plasma therapy. Well, at least not in humans. Obviously, that would violate medical ethics. But parabiosis research in mice has greatly helped the field of study to identify the anti-aging properties of young plasma. A 2023 study just came out which showed that heterochronic parabiosis reprograms the mouse brain transcriptome by shifting aging signatures in multiple cell types. Researchers observed changes in transcription processes within the brain due to the exchange of plasma. The first major finding of this study was that parabiosis did not physically alter the structure of either the old or young mouse brain, preserving the number of cell types and markers. That leads us to the second finding, which is that parabiosis induces a chemical change in the transcription process in the brain. To be precise, that's a change in 442 aging rejuvenation genes, whereas only 155 aging acceleration genes were modified. All of these mutations indicate that plasma exchange can overcome and reverse aging-related gene expression.
In summary, there's a lot of information floating around the internet about young plasma treatment, and not all of it is true. As of now, there are limited clinical studies that demonstrate the efficacy and, more importantly, safety of this method. And it's not all about science. Ethical questions need to be posed as well, like if the commercialization of the plasma of young is morally right, how would it be regulated? And would this treatment only be available for the wealthy Brian Johnsons of the world?